So again, another special day, bro. We get to talk about the successor to the PlayStation 4 Slim, which I just reviewed like a couple weeks ago. And this specific console is the PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, it's really not the successor to the PS4 Slim, it's more so the successor to the PS4. But what I could tell you about the PS4 Pro is that if you own this console, it may be tempting to go and stand in line for the PlayStation 5 or, be disappointed if you can't, get the PlayStation 5 online. But what I can tell you is that you have so much time before the PS4 Pro is outdated in any way. Now, what I mean by that is basically the transition speed, and the reason I'm starting off this video like this is because this is the biggest change from last year. The transition time from one console to the other is always more than what you think it really is. So what I mean by that is pretty much if you look back to from the PlayStation 3 to the PS4, when the PS4 came out, it wasn't like that same day the PS3 was outdated. If you look at the console, if you look at the games that came out from the transition from the PS3 to the PS4, there are a lot of overlapping games, things like GTA 5 and a bunch of Call of Duties and all those other games. And the reason that happens is because developers know that it takes a long time for you to, for people to get their hands on the next gen consoles. So they're not going to go ahead and make the games only for those dedicated consoles because it's just going to be a waste of money for them to make it for nobody to buy it. So they're going to go ahead and keep releasing them for both consoles for a while. So I will say, even for the next 2 years, to be completely honest, we're probably still going to be getting games for both consoles. Probably not so much next year, but even now, we just saw Cyberpunk. It's out for all these consoles, even though it kind of got, disbanded. It's still a solid console for sure, and it still has so much going for it without a doubt. Now, the PS4 Pro actually was announced as September 7th, 2016, and it came out a little bit later in November of 2016. So this time this year, it'll actually end up being 5 years old. And you can see that it does kind of still look like, the normal PS4 console that you would normally buy. And surprisingly, I don't know why it was so hard for me to find a PS4 Pro. I was able to find a PlayStation 5 before I got a PS4 Pro, which was so strange. Now, I like the design of the PS4s. I think specifically with the PS4 Pro, it is a very solid looking console. And this is a console that's going to, continue looking, minimalistic and beautiful for forever. When you look at the PlayStation 2, I get the same vibe. I have a PlayStation 2. Anytime I look at it, it literally looks timeless. It looks just almost like a PS4 Pro. Now with the PS5, it is taking a much more stronger approach, and I feel like I like that design a lot more. We'll see if it ages well. But this device for sure I think is a solid, console without a doubt. Now looking on the front, you still have, the 3 layers to it, which I love. With the PS4 Slim, it's like 2 layers. With this one, I like the design. It looks really cool. Now you have the disc slot on the left side, which I think is great, on the bottom half. But on the right side, you have obviously the disc eject button and 2 USB ports. With most other consoles, you only get 1 USB port. So I'm actually really happy that this thing ended up having, 2 on the front. Now, I think this console, the way it looks like, especially on the front, it looks like a solid console. It doesn't look old, it doesn't look outdated. And as I mentioned before, I am kind of excited to see what this console, or what, the PS5 is going to end up being 2 to 3 years from now. With the PS4 Pro, we already kind of know what it's been. It's been a solid console. With the PS5s, they're still in its infancy. Now, in the back of the PS4 Pro, we do have, the standard HDMI cable, AV out, an Ethernet port, I think a display out, whatever that is, and then another single USB port as well as the AC adapter. So again, you have a lot of ports to choose from on this console, which I'm really happy about. And again, when it comes down to this specific console and the future of it, this is for sure still a very current console. It doesn't have a USB-C port, but I still think it's totally okay for the most part. Now, a huge thing about this console was the ability of basically enabling the 4K experience for these type of consoles, with a lot of these games. Now, there was also the PlayStation VR thing that came out with this, which was really cool. The CPUs were clocked higher so you can get better game speeds. And the PS4 Pro also included 1GB of DDR3 RAM, which was able to swap out if you're doing non-gaming games, or if you're, doing, like applications or whatever. You can actually utilize that. And there was also the ability of these games using 512 megabytes of the GDDR5 memory. So don't ask me what that means because I have no idea what that means. But it's still a really cool thing that this had. Now, unfortunately, this thing did not have the Ultra HD Blu-ray capability, which I'm not too sure why they took that out. I think that was like one of the best things about, or why people bought this up. But again, it's totally okay. And I think the main thing about this PS4 Pro was that it was faster than pretty much all other PlayStation consoles that ever came out. And there was also a boost mode, which enabled the PlayStation 4 Pro to actually output higher CPU and GPU clock rates on games to potentially improve the performance. So this was a solid console when it came down to the performance side of things. Now, is if PS5 a way faster console in every way? Well, kind of it is, to be honest. It is the faster console 100%, and it's the more future-proof console. But as I mentioned before, with the PS4 Pro, with it approaching 5 years old almost, it really doesn't feel like a 5-year-old device. All these games, all these apps, all these everything are being updated through the App Store, and the PS4 Pro is still a fast console that even when the PS5s are like 2 to 3 years into their life cycle, which they're going to be like next year, well, it's not going to be that big of a difference because a lot of people still own the PS4, specifically even with the PS4 Pro. So games are still going to be updated through the PlayStation Store. There's really not going to be too many problems there. So I think for sure that's a really, really good thing about this console is that, if I owned it, which I do own it, I'm not freaking out about it because it's still going to be a super relevant console. So that's it kind of on the software side of things. The games on this thing are still perfect. I'm sure everyone knows about that. And one thing that I mentioned in my PS5 digital versus PS4 Pro comparison was that the PS4 Pro has a disc slot. If you're getting the disc version of the PS5, that's different. But the PS4 Pro, all of them have disc slots. And I think that's awesome because you can go ahead and buy a bunch of used games for this console and pretty much move on with your day. And I think that is one of the best things that this console has going for it. I think it's cool that this thing also has the capability of downloading, digital games if it wants to. But you have the capability of going on GameStop or going to eBay or whatever and buying a bunch of used games for like less than half the cost most of the time and be able to play these games. It's the same games, you're just getting them for a much lower cost. And I think that is another huge asset for the PS4 Pro. So that in and of itself is another awesome thing about this console. It's still super fast. There's really not that much to hate on it. Like, I was trying to think of things to hate on it, and there's really not that much. I think the only light thing that I would even complain about a little bit is the loud fans. Apparently a lot of these consoles had a lot of issues with their fans, and that is the one thing that I've seen personally. Almost with every single PlayStation 4 I've owned, the fans would ramp up like crazy. On my Xboxes, it's really not even that bad, to be honest. It's bad sometimes, but the next-gen consoles, my Xbox Series X and S and my PlayStation 5s, are actually all solid. The fans aren't even that loud anymore. The Series X did have a pretty loud fan in the beginning with, but these consoles, these next-gens, I think have taken a really big step in terms of the cooling of their consoles. But the PS4 Pro with that fan, it's really not even that bad because you're not holding it. It's right next to your TV, so it's not even that big of a deal. So that really pretty much covers up everything I wanted to hit on about this console. And I think it goes without saying, as I mentioned before, this console is still completely worth it. It's really not that outdated. Of course, if you had the ability or capability, going up to the PlayStation 5 would be the smarter decision. But if you currently don't have the funds, or if you only have a PlayStation 4 Pro, you honestly, I'm telling you right now, you are not missing out on that much. Eventually, like 2 to 3 years from now, that's when it's going to start ramping up. But right now, you're really not missing out on that much. You're still going to have a very similar experience on a PS4 Pro and on a PS5. There's really not that much difference right now. But again, that's going to change probably in the next couple of years. So that's pretty much it. I think the PS4 Pro is still a solid console, and I still think it's completely worth it in 2021. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.